everyone, Transformers Famicom 328 here, and drawing Dr. Wily's begging sprite over there makes me realize just how much he looks like Waldorf from the Muppet Show. And I'm drawing more sprites than I know what to do with. While not my favorite incarnation of the Mega Man franchise, the classic series is still a great series of challenging platformers that helped define the genre and inspired countless fans and developers following the original's release in 1987. There's no real stipulation, so there's not much time to waste. Let's jump and shoot our way through my top 11 favorite classic Mega Man games. Around Mega Man 8's release, Keiichi Inafune wanted to give Japanese kids not willing to jump consoles a fresh Mega Man experience on the Super Famicom, which would later be ported to the GBA for American audiences to enjoy. Good luck actually enjoying this one. Mega Man in Bass, or Rockman in Forte, is easily the worst classic Mega Man game I've ever played. I do like that they're able to use the PlayStation graphics on the SNES, the soundtrack's alright, some of the Robot Masters look cool, and being able to choose between playing as either Mega Man or Bass is a welcome feature, given how different Bass is from Mega Man. The problem? The level design is awful! Mega Man can have a miserable time playing these stages, since he no longer has anything like Rush Jet to help him out, and the pain that one must endure to achieve results that were easier and much more satisfying to accomplish in other games is aggravating at best. Bass's added mobility allows him to handle most of the stages alright, as if they were designed for him and not Mega Man, but his unchargeable buster makes bosses a chore to beat. Well, Cold Man specifically, since any other option for a first boss is damn near impossible due to their patterns, properties, and other such issues. Hell, Burner Man isn't the only boss to have a weakness that's hard to use against them. And then there's King Fortress 2, one of the worst and longest stages I've ever gone through. Especially that f***ing King Jet. Why did I pick Burner Man for the hardest bosses list, having fought this thing? And that final Wily battle is only difficult because they decided the game would be fine without E-Tanks for some unknown reason. The GBA rendition is actually worse thanks to the screen crunch the system makes the game suffer from, making bad platforming sections worse. Thankfully, nothing in this game matters in the long run, so if you never play it, you're not missing out on much unless you're out to prove something. I've beaten it, multiple times in fact, but the fun I had never overshadowed the bullshit. Despite the interesting premise of Proto Man turning evil by trying the exact same strategy Dr. Wily failed to succeed with 4 times by that point, Mega Man 5 is perhaps the blandest entry in the series, structurally sound, but nothing noteworthy. The game as a whole is one of the easier entries, but a weak soundtrack, occasionally bad level design despite an overall lax difficulty, mediocre bosses, and an awful weapon selection compounded by the overpowered Charge Buster make this entry rather unmemorable. The only standout thing in this game is Beat, who got reduced to Bottomless Pit Rescue Service following 6. Wait, that's not demotion! Let's put it this way. 5 is the only NES entry not represented in any fashion in Smash Bros. I'm going to piss so many people off when I put this particular entry so low in the list. But if I'm not honest about it, this list wouldn't have much credibility, implying it was credible to begin with. Mega Man 3 is the entry that everyone loves and takes inspiration from if it's not Mega Man 2. And I can see why. It brought us an increase in the amount of E-Tanks we could hold, and gave us the slide, rush, memorable bosses, fun levels, cool weapons, for the most part, and a strong soundtrack. But once the Robot Masters go down, the game's quality goes the same direction for me. Aside from the terrible padding of the Doc Robot stages, especially since the Mega Man 2 bosses don't matter despite how difficult these stages turn out, the Wily stages end up as a complete joke, but in a way that feels like a chore to me. E-Tanks are all over the place, the design is rather lax, and the bosses are hardly worth mentioning outside of the final boss's weakness to the top spin of all things. I understand why people love this game, but I think most of the other games outshine Mega Man 3 for me, and it's not one I find myself replaying all that often. Also, was this intentional? Actually, this was quite the elusive title for me. I had a hard time emulating PS1 games for quite a while, and as a result, I couldn't even touch this game. Fortunately, I was able to close the book on this chapter when I got the Mega Man Anniversary Collection. I had fun with it, but not really worth jumping through as many hoops as I had to in order to play it. The voice acting is hilariously bad.
When we find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wily.
The control is fine, the Roman Masters have a certain charm to them, some of the weapons are cool, music is good at points and meh at others, the upgrades to Bolt Spot were useful, and the game is overall low on difficulty, at least for a Mega Man game, making it a decent entry point. I don't like that they ditched E-Tanks, which is the only reason the final battle is difficult at all, and that bolts are a limited collectible, not to mention the inability to get everything from the shop due to how few bolts there are. Since I like to collect everything I can in most Mega Man games, it's jarring to me, and Wily 1's snowboarding section can f right off. It's an alright game, but I don't think you need to pursue this one like I did. That is, unless you want your mental Mega Man voice to sound like he's been drinking helium the past few days.
Hey, Dad! Why must I fight you? We are not enemies!
Shut up!
Thank you. Respect your elders, kids. If we didn't have this game, we wouldn't have the legendary franchise we have today. The solid soundtrack, colorful graphics, fun gameplay, and the open-ended rock-paper-scissors format made Mega Man a unique game among the NES library, even with the infamously bad box art. The original game does show its age, however. Aside from not having E-Tanks, which is forgivable, early installment weirdness and all that, there's only 6 Robot Masters, the music tended to be on the repetitive side, Mega Man slid a little when he stopped moving in any level, you were screwed if you missed the Magnet Beam in Elecman stage, and invincibility frames from taking a hit wouldn't protect you from the spikes, making certain levels harder than they would be in any other game in the series. Not to mention there's no health pickups during the boss rush, making the final Wily battle a real pain. And the infamous Yellow Devil, where even the pause trick won't work on certain ports. The game is still fun, but everything this game did was done better in every future entry. Even the PSP remake no one played. Honestly, I find Mega Man 4 just that much more memorable and enjoyable than the last few entries for several reasons. I remember the music more, I like the Robot Masters more, well, most of them, half of them. It made the best use of the chart shot by having at least an enemy or two invincible outside of using it. The level design wasn't too bad, and some of the weapons were fun to use, even if a lot of them are basic. It certainly falls under the just another Mega Man game category that 5 does, but I feel that there's enough charm here to put it higher on my list. This game ended up being the last one I played for the countdown, and it was quite the entry to end on. While one of the easiest games in the classic series, the final game in Mega Man's NES run made it feel like it was the end. The globe-trotting tournament setup led to some awesome-looking stages, and some wonderful and varied tunes, as well as some great designs for the Robot Masters. Some of the weapons are quite useful, but the rush adapters are easily the most entertaining and helpful parts of the game. Power Mega Man opened pathways and uncovered goodies like lives and E-Tanks, and Jet Mega Man replaced Rush Jet and Coil, figuratively and literally, and opened up more pathways, some leading to boss encounters that would help unlock feat. Occasionally dickish level design was less irritating thanks to the sheer joy I was having when I beat each Robot Master, conquered Mr. X's castle, and finally made it to Wily one last time, ending my classic series marathon. This is obviously not the end of the countdown, however. I'm Sonic. I was all set to get mad about this game and its near I want to be the guy difficulty level because of a recent playthrough. Only to remember said playthrough as wrapping up my repeatedly backlogged playthrough as Proto Man, and most of the added difficulties came from Proto Man's weaknesses. As a result of a speedrun following that run, I grew to appreciate Mega Man 9 a lot more than I initially did when I first played it. Believe it or not, this was my first ever Mega Man game, and considering how much I hated playing this game, I questioned why I pursued the rest of the franchise from there while writing this list. Now I know why. A wonderful soundtrack, cool Robot Masters, the best weapon selection the series has ever seen, pixel-perfect controls, and level design that was much smarter than I initially gave it credit for, made for a solid, enjoyable experience that began my skill growth from barely beating this game after 4 months to speedrunning it in 2 hours. Just don't play Proto Man mode for the sake of your sanity, okay? That really does make it feel like a bad ROM hack. Do androids dream of electric sheep? I don't know, but I drew one.
Do you dream of flesh sheep, and why?
For the longest time, I would have said that Mega Man 10, wow, this is worse civilization than horror movies, was my favorite game in the classic series, if only because of the options. I still like the Robot Masters, the music's amazing for my taste, the controls slightly improved from 9 since you can switch weapons on the fly again, and the levels were creative in their themes, but it was the extra stuff that made me love this game. Playing as either Mega Man, Proto Man, or Bass on either easy, normal, or hard in whatever order you wanted, and possibly going Buster only or weapon crazy, especially with the weapons earned from the DLC stages, the options that Mega Man 10 offered made it quite the replayable game. Though now that I have the other games in mind, I see why people view it as just another Mega Man game like 4 and 5. Another reason is that I spent most of my time speedrunning easy mode with Bass, which, while a fun time, isn't really taking advantage of those options now, is it? I did beat the game on normal at least twice, and I did enjoy it then, but I realized there was a reason my Mega Man 10 runs were always easy mode speedruns with Bass. Even so, there's also a reason why the sprites on my wall were all from this game at one point. The moment I say what number 2 is, it'll automatically spoil what number 1 is. But bear with me, I still gotta explain number 2. This one is the classic, the one everyone thinks of when they hear the name Mega Man, and it's honestly not hard to see why. The first game with 8 Robot Masters and E-Tanks made a mark on gaming history with its great level design, memorable bosses, excellent weapons, and a legendary soundtrack. If you played any random track to anyone familiar with the series, chances are they'll be able to tell you exactly where it's played, especially the first Wily stage theme, a track so famous you could probably hum it entirely by heart. One of my favorite parts of this game is that some of the bosses are vulnerable to more than one weapon. Quickman's health drains with the Flash Stopper, but he can also be heavily damaged with Crash Bombs if you can hit him with them. Woodman can be cut with metal blades or burned with atomic fire, and Metal Man's weakness to his own weapon is more well known than his weakness to quick boomerangs. This, along with their effectiveness in the stages themselves, adds an extra layer of variety to multiple playthroughs, the likes of which have rarely been duplicated in the series in favor of a consistent weakness circle. The only major issue I take with this game is the Beam Trap boss in Wily 4 due to how much of a gas guzzler Crash Bombs are, but that doesn't distract from the legendary quality that few can deny that this game has. Mega Man 2 is a stone cold classic, and it's no wonder most Mega Man material takes from this game, but I just enjoy the number 1 entry that much better. Let's cut to the chase. I love Mega Man 7. I love the Robot Masters, I love the level design, I love the graphics, I love the emphasis on exploration and secret enhancements, I love the little Easter eggs hidden throughout the game, I love the controls, I love the weapons, I love the soundtrack, I love this game. In a platonic way, of course. I could list every little joy I have with this game, but I'll only show you some to save some time. The humorous banter in the intro stage music, Freeze Man's theme, the power of the Thunderbolt, Junkman's theme, the Super Adapter, Auto Shop and the Hyperbolt expansion, making the Robot Master lineup fall with little effort after the intense first one, Slash Man's theme, Shade Man's Ghosts and Goblins theme, Shade Man's actual theme, Shade Man's mini-boss having 2 different paths depending on how it's defeated, the secret Proto Man boss fight, the Super Adapter's upgraded Rocket Buster, Turbo Man's Mega Man 2 homage, the Wily 1 theme, the Super Adapter fight with Bass, the Wily 3 theme, the Wily Fortress stages restoring your ammo between stages, even the difficult Wily Capsule fight, which leads into a surprisingly meaningful story moment, and a badass walk cycle set to one of the most satisfying end credits themes I've ever heard. There's not one moment of frustration I get when playing this game. It's pure joy and satisfaction from beginning to end, and that's why Mega Man 7 is my favorite classic series Mega Man game. I'm Transformers Fanco 328, and in my next video, I'm going back to the time before time.